Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of HP Labs podcast From Research to Reality. Today, we'll be talking about CloudOps software and platform, and I have a great honor and pleasure to have two guests, one from business, Varma Kunaparaju. Hello, Varma.
Good to see you.
And our old visitor here, Andrew Wheeler, who is director of all of HP Labs. Let's start with our esteemed guest. Can you introduce yourself, please? A little bit about you, history, school, whatever you feel like to share.
Pleasure. First of all, thanks for having me. My name is Varma Kunaparaju. I came into HPE through the acquisition of a company called OpsRamp. Today, my role in HPE is to lead the CloudOps software and GreenLake cloud platform. So about me, I've been in the Valley for over 30 plus years. Most of my career has been in the startups. Did a couple of startups before OpsRamp, one of them in the early pre-.com era. I'm one of those pre-.com era entrepreneur. And
what was the name of the startup?
The first company that I started is NextPrize. It stands for Network Extended Enterprise. You know, this is in the internet era. How do you make enterprises to collaborate with complex procurement and collaborative commerce that needs to take place in the supply chain? That was started in 1996. Went public through acquisitions and all, and ultimately I left around 2003, 2004 timeframe to do another company that led to OpsRamp in the third company.
Nice. Andrew?
Yeah, my journey's not nearly as exciting as Varma's, so I just started year 32 with the company. But as I was telling someone earlier today, it's the company I work for now is much different than the legacy test and measurement HP that I started with then. But that's also been why I've been here for 32 years, because there's always been some new area to work on, and just the breadth and the vastness that the company's operated over all of these years has always presented new opportunities. So every aspect of research and development, seemingly I've touched, and so it's been very rewarding from that perspective.
Plus, any reorg is almost like a new company, or moving managers and all of that.
And it's exciting because we always have this fresh infusion of talent, both technical and leadership talent. So it's a great example. Even Varma being here today is a good example of how this has worked over the years.
But before you came, and I'm going to change the order, before you came to HP, tell us a little bit.
Yeah.
History, where did you go to school? What did you want to be? Why did you end up at HP?
Yeah, I was from a little kid always really into computers. I can remember the first computer that kind of came home, and it was a TI-99 4A, for those that remember any of those, and then graduated to Commodores, but was always into like programming, low-level programming, machine language, assembly language, and so I knew I wanted a career kind of in that field. And so before joining HP, the last kind of program I worked on was in a university environment, developing optical character readers for mail postal systems that were eventually deployed throughout the U.S. and even in Europe. So that was a kind of a fascinating project that brought a lot of aspects of engineering together. So I was kind of hooked.
Great satisfaction to see your stuff.
Yeah.
When you go to post offices and banks, I had a similar experience. How about you? Did you always know that you will end up running CloudOps software and platform? Did you prepare yourself from the early days in school, or?
No, I think, just like most kids at young age, my ambition is to become a teacher, right? I was born into teachers' families. So, growing up, little do I know that I will end up as a software, computer-oriented personality. So, but growing up, my ambition is to become a teacher.
But teaching at a different level now.
Oh, yeah.
You teach every day.
Say that,
In a way, you're teaching now all these young engineers who are going to listen to your experience.
I wanted to do my PhD and become potentially a professor in career. That's the ambition when I was growing up. But, little do I come to know that I am in Silicon Valley, and Valley is famous for young entrepreneurs. The world is flat, and you can compete in picking up a great vision and execute that vision and create a company of consequence. And that's the journey that I morphed into. I think, before OpsRamp, I was a co-founder of a company called Net Enrich. And during that journey, we came to visualize this problem of, IT operations management is a big challenge in the market. And, that led to building a large enterprise software company. That's the vision with which we started.
And how is that flat world of startups in Silicon Valley different from this hierarchical, large corporate world?
Well, I think in young startups, hunger and hustle defines what one wants to do, right? Because you don't have the luxury of large enterprise customers as logos in your backyard, because you built that business in a large company. So the grit to acquire those customers plays a big role in young companies. When you come to a large enterprise company like HPE, you name world's largest logos that you wanted to go after. They're already existing customers for HPE. So the challenge of acquiring a new logo is slightly different when you are a young, unproven technology company coming up with an idea where somebody needs to bet on the team. Would they be there? Those questions are already granted in a large enterprise company like HPE. And, to its credit, it has a long history. Enterprises really trust the logo. If it comes from HPE, we can trust that company. So those problems are taken care in when you are in a large entity.
Thank you. Great insights. So Andrew, how do you maintain hunger, hustle, and grit across your teams now, which isn't a startup, but a big logo itself?
Yeah, I think that's always the mindset or things we talk about of having that energy and sense of urgency, as a startup. And I think, frankly, our team and really the company, look, everyone's here to win. And so I think you have to take on some of that same, again, sense of urgency and desire to want to compete, but also solve meaningful problems, right? We're not all here just to, collect a paycheck. You want to do work that's impactful. And sometimes I think in the enterprise space, especially, you feel maybe a little bit removed from that. But understanding how our customers use our products and how it's benefiting, everyone, at large is, so you have to dig a little bit deeper sometimes. But then in other parts of the company, it's very real. Wireless networking, that's one we use every day and touch every day. The work that happens in, the high performance computing and AI space, and, all the research, with those platforms that gets done with, whether it's weather forecasting or studying medicine or things that ultimately benefit our health and well-being. Those are very easy to connect with. So, but I think anyone that's been in the tech sector long enough understands very quickly that if you're not working to disrupt yourself, someone else with a great idea in the startup community is out there trying to do it. So
taking your words to dig a little bit deeper, how does Labs offer disruption to Varma in a positive way to enrich his products, and how can we help Varma Kunaparaju?
Yeah, I would start, and I know Varma will probably weigh in here as well. It starts with, you have to have a really good connection and collaboration. And it starts with Varma, meaning our teams need to connect at a level to understand, what does state of the art of his platform look like? What does success look like what kind of maybe IP is going to be needed, 1 year from now, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years out. And so how do we effectively collaborate together such that we can match up maybe expertise on our side with, okay, he's got the direct customer relationship, he's got the engineering teams. So, kind of blending those things together to understand what are meaningful, impactful level, solutions we can start working towards that ultimately give us a leg up in the marketplace.
Thank you, Andrew. Is that the same view from your side?
Yeah, I think, absolutely to Andrew's point, there is a near-term horizon and then there is a long-term horizon. And if you look at those two, the near-term is there are bandwidth young product companies are bandwidth constrained while they're executing on immediate customer problems, immediate roadmap priorities. There are alternative ways of exploring a problem and coming up with innovative solutions around that problem. And most young R&D talent teams, I mean, quote unquote, when the product is going through release cycles, their priorities are all determined, and their backlogs are filled with a lot of demand. So as a result, even in the near-term horizon problems, you can't look at the same problem solving in an innovative, in a different way. So labs has, like Andrew's teams carries the necessary talent with a lot of PhDs, thinking about the problem how can we solve this problem in a slightly different way. And that, I think, is incredibly valuable. In addition to long-term horizon, right? 2 years out, 3 years out, and I know Andrew's team is looking at quantum. What is, how would that impact the future of what we are doing today, right? Whether it is security, whether it is, product, compute needs and things like that. So both are very critical, and I have a number of examples on what we did with labs in the near-term horizon, being able to kind of solve the problem with, in a slightly different way.
Can you give us some examples of
this? I'll give an example. We've been thinking in the product organization when these foundational models came in a big time. Most of the foundational models that you see in the market today from all the AI companies, they're all designed and meant for world's largest knowledge of web and content that is out there, and taking a model like that and fine-tuning that model for specific operations needs is one thing. But can we imagine that problem in a different way, where you really fundamentally create a foundational model specifically for IT operations, right? So it's a collaborative exercise that we did with Andrew's team, and today we collectively came together with a model that is still in the pre-production stage, but our goal is to kind of really tune that model, not only take that model, but tune that model, really fortify for operations needs, where probable root cause for a problem in an IT domain is not the same as potentially asking a ChatGPT, what you wanted to kind of learn about a particular branch of science. So being able to kind of do those interesting, way of looking at the problem and fundamentally coming up with new ways to solve the problem is what we are collaborating on.
While we are talking about these interesting products, can you share with us the most exciting products that you have in your organization? Maybe some good idea happens during the podcast.
Sure. My organization is composed of two, different segments, right? One is GreenLake Cloud Platform. We build the platform for HPE to be the number one hybrid cloud in the world. Just like hyperscalers define what a public cloud looks like, HPE from the very beginning has a big vision of creating the world's de facto leadership in hybrid cloud. So my organization creates the platform that is needed for that hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud by design covers from edge to cloud, and it is multi-vendor, and it touches all kinds of infrastructure. So that's one part of the responsibility. The second piece of the responsibility is CloudOps software, which composed of HP is offering a runtime of choice for the enterprises. Runtime, we mean runtime by hypervisor, an alternative hypervisor to the markets, in the form of VME and Kubernetes along with that. So the full runtime that runs on top of hardware, and brings that infrastructure layer for running applications. Then Morpheus, which is the cloud management platform for provisioning, orchestration, billing, metering, and automation of those workloads. And then observability platform in the form of OpsRamp, along with AI Ops and automation for day two operations problems. So that second piece of the puzzle is we call CloudOps software. We bring that as a suite consisting of VME, OpsRamp, and Morpheus together. And the GreenLake platform is for hybrid clouds in the market.
Excellent. Thank you for this great summary. Andrew, of all interesting research projects that you have, which ones are most resonating with these amazing products that Varma spoke about?
Yeah, well, I think before I jump into a couple, I think there's an important point it's an exciting time for us to be working together because, Varma just walked through the CloudOps suite. And what's great about that, especially if I go look back 5-10 years ago, when I was doing product development and working with labs on the other side of this, so many of the projects were, very hardware focused. Now, there's still a spot for that in the company, right? Because we obviously do a lot of infrastructure. But the great thing about the CloudOps sweep is that the entry point now to work together on something and from idea or from concept all the way in through to production is so much shorter because you've got these platforms then that we can also build upon. So, I look across everything that's in his portfolio right now, and it's pretty exciting because, like on the Morpheus side of things, we're working confidential compute around having, secure virtual machines. Well, that one's well on its way and pretty excited. We're already seeing a lot of customer, interest in that. So that's an exciting project. He mentioned some of the smaller focused models that are working with the observability aspect of OpsRamp. So, that's another one. We've got, power management ideas and the list, workload management. So the list just kind of keeps going on. But the great thing about it is with these various platforms that we already have established, it's that much easier then to improve and then continue to take those to the next level.
Thank you. So pick up any of these. At what point do you think your research is ready to be transferred? Is that early? Is that when it achieves some maturity? Is it late? Or does it depend from project to project, from team to team? Who tells you? How is that decision being made?
Yeah. Well, I'll start off. And the first thing I would say is I actually don't like the concept of transfer because I think that's a little bit of a loaded term, and one could argue, and I could, walk through the examples of why a pure transfer model doesn't work so great. Okay, it's really hard. That concept of, throw it over the wall or something. So it's really a collaboration that makes sense. And that means at the start of a project, we want a sense of it being kind of jointly commissioned, meaning, yes, if we both have resources that work on a problem, maybe from Varma's side, it's just, look, we need some counsel and some guidance and, pretty low, at least low effort, but it can't be invisible. Like directionally, it's got to be, the right area, and it has to have a path to product intercept, kind of those kind of things. Or it could just be around, hey, I need a point of view on something. And of course, something like that you can work on independently. And so Short answer, it kind of depends. But if it's clearly something that we are chasing for product intercept, that needs to be a collaboration. That needs to be active engagement. It can't be a transfer.
Thank you. Is that the same preference from your side?
Yeah, I think it is the same preference, and I think one of the things that I always look for is, customer. What does a customer? How do we? If any solution that we bring to the table, if it is solving the customer's problem, and the customer is endorsing, that he's seeing the value for it, it is primed for giving, that channel opened up so that whatever has been done, an engineer's dream of solving a end customer's problem, the product becomes a vehicle to kind of go and reach that customer. And like Andrew said, it is a collaborative thing. It's not just throwing over the fence, because no software in the world is stagnant, right? If the software is not evolving and continue to evolve, it is as good as legacy, right? So that continuous iteration really requires the same amount of talent that worked on the fundamental problem first, and that collaboration needs to continue.
Yeah,
very nice observation. And when you develop that software, how do you approach it? You spoke about Kubernetes, which is the open source. Then you have some of your software that is proprietary. How do you make these decisions, and what is the optimal? What do you decide to develop together with the community? What do you think should be kept closer to the company's chest?
Yeah, I think it depends on the domain to domain, right? There are infrastructure softwares that potentially can get benefited when it is community, because there is a large ecosystem, that piggyback on the innovation and that can contribute to the innovation and maintain an open standard, and everybody gets benefited from that. So the boundary depends on problem to problem and domain to domain. There are areas where company needs to maintain, because nobody is interested in commercializing that software, and nobody is interested in maintaining the support that is needed. Enterprises buy software not just for, if everybody can run on open source, there are no software companies in the world, right? Yeah. So there is a need for, ongoing support, ongoing maintenance, and the comfort that there is a company that's behind this software that can come and make sure that my mission critical applications are not going down at the mercy of finding who can fix the problem or who can fix the bug in the code. It's not about support contract to do call, but being able to kind of maintain the code. So the boundary depends. And I think, today markets, if you look at all successful large enterprise softwares, there are completely closed systems on one hand, and there are companies that got created based on being able to have some pieces of the software in open community, including in AI domain, right? And then creating commercial models around it.
So it all depends.
It all depends.
Thank you. So paraphrasing the same question, but expanding it a little bit, because Varma also touched on standards, which are implied standards or de facto standards. There are also best practices, their point of view. Mm-hmm. This is all that Labs is worrying about, not just doing research, but looking at the bigger picture. So can you share some insights about this whole process with us?
Yeah, I think, we talk about labs, but also, we have a large role within the office of the CTO, which then also means we have coverage across the entire company. And so a big part of that is, for, let's say, the standards committees that make sense, where are we coordinating maybe one voice support for HPE within standards, because that's a big part of also what we need to build on and build towards, even in combination with, let's say, open source, the open source community. And so those two elements together, we had, one of our colleagues used to talk about it as being kind of the rocket fuel for software development, open source. But having, standards and things like that, very important at the hardware and software level. And then also as other, maybe initiatives or things come down, back to that time horizon question, quantum is a good example of that, of understanding, well, what are the time horizons for when we'll see a cryptographically relevant quantum computer? What does that mean for our products? So from a security standpoint, okay, we work with Varma and the team to say, well, Varma, how do we do things like, code signing or authentication, and what kind of algorithms are being used? And, we need to modernize those so that they're quantum safe. And so there's a role kind of across the company where we need to do things like that. And then if I look to AI as maybe kind of the last example, standardization is going to be very important there as well, whether it's how we're connecting to data sources, other guardrails or frameworks then that allow us to develop AI-based solutions in concordance with our own governance process. So, yeah.
It's interesting that earlier you spoke about the hardware, how it took much longer to develop. With software, it's much faster. There's also an angle on inventions. Traditionally, inventions were recognized much more for hardware and less so for software, but that has changed as of recently. So can you speak about Lab's experience about inventions, innovations, IP in general?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, again, going back, my initial experience with labs, a lot of the discussion at the time was certainly based on, number of patents or number of papers that were being published. And I would say it's kind of turned now to where, yes, those are all great artifacts, but it's an outcome of work that we would naturally want to be doing. We're not chasing those numbers, just as pure metrics. It's an outcome of the interesting work that we're doing. And all of that is still vitally important. It serves a purpose, especially on patent protection. It's very important for us to protect, what's developed underneath the company's banner for a variety of reasons. And then still even being out there with customers or the innovation community at large, from a thought leadership standpoint, our ability to attract and develop, retain talent. All of these are very core reasons why it's still very important for us to obviously continue to innovate, but then share when appropriate about the great work that's being done.
Thank you. And how are inventions, innovations recognized, incentivized in business?
I think twofold. Number one is, commercializing that software, the innovation, and being able to take it to the end customers is the number one reward any employee or any engineer can think of, right? Putting in front of hundreds and thousands of customers through the go-to-market, that itself is, inherent recognition. Then the standard innovation appreciation framework that exists in a company like HPE, for patents and for awards and recognition, in the form of number of rewards that we do in the annual as well as spot and instantaneous gratification for being able to kind of bring a new idea into the market, right? So there is a number of incentives that are in place for motivating the people to apply for patents and IP, and motivating the employees for really putting into production use. And the last but not the least, a reward system that HP has star points and number of ways that we can reward the employees.
Nice. Good. Market is important, but HP also takes pride in our CEO and all EVPs, SVPs like you two, that we are doing for the broader good of the humankind. So how does that map to the products that your organization develops, and how do you communicate that to the world?
Yeah. So I'll give a very concrete example on what the platform is doing with respect to the greater good for the world. Sustainability and is a very big initiative across HPE, And I think I can let Andrew explain the sustainability at the HPE level, but within my own organization, being able to kind of give carbon footprint and ability to show a sustainability dashboard to an enterprise, whether they are consuming HPE hardware or whether they're consuming non-HPE hardware. No enterprise will have a homogeneous infrastructure from one single vendor, whether it is coming from HPE or non-HPE. How do you kind of make the enterprise IT recognize the total carbon footprint and what the sustainability dashboards look like? So we offer Sustainability Insight Center as part of the GreenLake platform. So all the customers and partners can visualize what their sustainability footprint is, because it makes them conscious to do and take initiatives to optimize what they need to optimize. It's one example, but there are many examples like that.
Thank you. What are examples in labs?
Yeah, I think I love your example too. That's a great one. I remember when the Sustainability Insight Center was first launched as part of even some global sustainability strategy. But yeah, from labs, I mean, our work covers a pretty wide spectrum, meaning all the way from projects we are directly involved in. Think about things in Europe like the Destination Earth, or in areas where we're applying AI, and we get multiple benefits out of it. We get the learning from maybe how to develop that new digital twin or a new model that we're going to use for other product innovations. But it's also then solving part of a larger solve or problem there. So Destination Earth is a great example. Or work with the International Rescue Committee to combat human trafficking, working on their database platform and applying some AI to those problems. So, we always have kind of a constant portfolio, I would say, of very direct items like that we cover on behalf of the company. But from there, we can go into every product group essentially and say, okay, look, here's how we're kind of making a difference. And it's something, look, the employees are very passionate about. In a lot of these cases, they would like, look, let me work on this. I'll do it on the side. I just want to be a part of it. And so you can see a lot of excitement, energy from it. So anyway, it's something we take great pride in. And, having been a long-term employee, it goes all the way back, even from Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard, the book they wrote, they talked about the importance of being a productive member of the community, giving back to the community, being present, letting HPE now being viewed in that light and considered. That's how we operate in the communities, and I've always been very proud of that.
HP Way book.
We used
to get it when we get employed.
That's right. That and a calculator.
So you presented a spectrum of things that could make you very proud. From broader goods, from products, innovation, many other things. What was most gratifying among all of these throughout your lengthy and successful career?
Gosh, it's probably changed a little bit. And so my near term, actually Varma mentioned, I articulated it quite well. As an engineer, which is how I spent the most of my time in this company, there's nothing more rewarding than to work on an impactful product that's solving not just one customer's problem, but widely recognized in the industry as wow, this is leadership and having played an important role in that. And I can think of several projects like that I've worked on, but that as an engineer, that absolutely is the most impactful thing. And having kind of that pride. I think, even, and this was maybe after I transitioned coming over to the lab team now. And so that was kind of a team and individual type reward. But now, I get as much, if not more reward out of it's not just, ideas I come up with. It's really seeing the team leave these things out. Now seeing others kind of, earlier in their career, especially kind of having that same light bulb moment or some of that same passion and seeing some of their success come to light, seeing great colleagues such as yourself getting recognized. For those that don't know, that Dejan was just recognized as an ACM fellow.
Congratulations.
So very rarefied air. And so I take tremendous pride and sense of working with people such as yourself and others that are just, at the end of the day, professionals. I love the fact that I work with professionals, and because I have many friends, I have experience before, joining HP that certainly wasn't the case. And I hear stories all the time of people you would expect to be professionals really aren't. So just now it's all about working with incredibly talented people, making a difference at a large scale and seeing them succeed. That's incredibly rewarding.
That's the feeling I always had about HP. It's all about the people.
Yeah.
It's not cutthroat. It's very nice culture.
Yeah.
How about you? And thanks for your kind words, Andrew. How about you?
I think been in the entrepreneurial world for a couple of decades, right? So for me, the number one gratifying moment is absolutely making sure that the vision with which you started gets fulfilled, right? And when you do that fulfillment, you immediately benefit the business, right? So that means the business is growing rapidly, right? The business is scaling. So that's number one, vision getting fulfilled and resulting in business scale and growth. That's number one. And if you achieve that, naturally, in my view, people who are associated with that success will all get rewarded, right? Their careers and their career ambitions are getting fulfilled, and they're getting the next move in their career. So those are the two gratifying moments for me as I look back and as I look forward. Those are the two things that I look for. How do I scale whatever little business that I'm responsible for and create that leadership in the market, and making sure, like what Andrew said, people associated with that all get rewarded.
What you two just said feels to me like straight out of and should go into Leadership 101 books. You are most proud about the business outcomes and about your people. That's very generous of both of you.
I don't know if it was so many copies. It feels like a lot of those books have been written already.
I think you are writing in practice new books, both of you. I will not ask Andrew because I know he hates that question, but you traveled a windy road, multiple startups, now enterprise. If you could choose, what would you do different?
Great and loaded question. So I think one of my in my early part of my startups, one of the board member was very well known, and I don't want to quote his name, but he told me in one of the board meetings when we didn't get the results, he said, "Experience is what you get when you don't get what you wanted." So I genuinely believe there is a lot of scars along the journey. Some of them are very relevant, even in the current market conditions. So the learning that I got is that put always customer and customer first. And when you put that customer first, sometimes you could really focus on solving a problem, but you miss the go-to market. So in Silicon Valley, there is a overloaded product market fit word that people will always say, do you have a product market fit? I think in my view, product market fit is critical and it is important that one needs to achieve, but that doesn't necessarily mean success unless you really figure out your go-to market fit. So since you quoted my experience in entrepreneurial journey leading to enterprise, the go-to-market fit is where established companies carry that. So somehow bridging those two in the, whether you're in a large company or whether you're in a young company, that fit of bringing how to kind of acquire customers in scale. And there are many ways that one could explore that scale. Figuring that out early in the cycle and really come up with mechanics that, and put that into the engines that you kind of do makes a big difference in building, scale companies that can exist for a long time. Whether you are a product inside a large company or whether you are coming up with a new product for the first time, those are the two big things that I always look for.
And it's probably different whether you are trying to scale in existing market or create a new one. If you have completely new product along the lines of innovator's dilemma.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think both have their own nuances to it. And, even in established markets, David and Goliath story still is applicable. And, you actually established markets and sometimes will open up opportunities that nobody ever will imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about your question from last time a little bit. And actually, Varma did remind me of something. I had a couple of opportunities to scratch the startup bug, the entrepreneurial bug, and I do wonder sometimes. I do reflect back. Would I have done it differently? Yeah, I don't know, but I do think about that a little bit.
I remember Patrick Scaglia was telling us always that he had experiences both at startups.
Yeah.
He used to be center director in labs. I'm not sure if you remember. He said he always ended up much better in big corporations than in startups. But I'm sure, both have their own values and experiences vary widely.
Yeah.
Is there anything, gentlemen, from your private life that you would like to share? Our audiences has been telling me over and over they like to hear about personal life of our guests. So would you like to start? Anything interesting about you that you haven't said already? By pure coincidence, you were here last time around because we had something to say.
Yeah. Well, I did start a new book based on our last conversation. So I started a new book over the break, 0 to 1, and co-authored by Peter Thiel is one of the authors. I forgot the other one. But yeah, it has to do with innovation and how disruptive innovation, his premise goes from, goes from 0 to 1 if you really want disruption versus 1 to N. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of unpacking that and seeing what's kind of relevant for us. But no, my hobbies and interests haven't changed too much since the last time. I've gotten a little bit of backcountry skiing in since the last time we spoke, and some indoor cycling, not too much outdoor, but that's kind of what keeps me mentally sharp.
Thank you. Varma, how about you?
I think, on the personal front, I'm a little bit boring person outside the technology, but the only sport that I play that I got introduced by a good friend and a partner in crime at the time was golf. And I don't play much, I try to kind of, most of my rounds are business golf, but that's outside the only sport that I play. And a little bit of things that I'm dabbling into, kind of keeping my outside life balanced to make it more interesting. Going back to the books, I read this, during as soon as the book got released, but I'm reading it one more time. Amp It Up, from Frank Slootman. I think a lot of relevance when you are building a software business in a startup-oriented methodology in a large HPE ecosystem. So I'm trying to kind of, take few, pages of that and few learnings from that and try to kind of see how we can make a big impact in the coming year.
And the way you read it now is probably much different than when you read it earlier.
Absolutely.
There's tons of experience here.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I learned a lot. I'm sure our audience have
Thank you.
and will.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure, Dejan.
Always a pleasure.